Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Movies That Move We. So this week you guys chose what movie we're going to watch, and tell them what we're watching, Sidekick.
The Five Heartbeats.
You could sound a little more excited. The Five Heartbeats, that's what we're watching today. So I'm going to need some of y'all to tell me exactly where you were in 1991 when this was released. If y'all weren't at Freaknik. Nasty. Anyway, this was directed by Robert Townsend. He also co-wrote this film with Keenan Ivory Wayans. And if you're going, why does Wayans sound familiar? The whole family's in showbiz. Keenan and Robert both did I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. And Keenan did In Living Color, which is where J-Lo and Jim Carrey got their start. I could run down the whole list of everything that these guys have done. They've been in the biz forever. They've done it all. As a matter of fact, I was telling my daughter here, Robert Townsend filmed, I should say, and directed an ABC after school special at my old elementary school. And that was in 1990, I'm giving away my age. No, 1986. 86, yeah, 86. So, and that was fun. You know, we were all excited. And whatever he filmed, I can't remember the title of it, and I wish I could find it. It was a high school movie. If you remember these after school specials, they had a very high moral message to each and every episode. But anyway, moving on to the Five Heartbeats. What did you get out of it?
I mean, it's a movie about a sense of brotherhood, I guess. Like, these guys, they were actually, some of them were related. You know, they met each other, I guess, growing up in school, things like that. And they all had one, talent, which was singing. So that's kind of something they bonded over. Mm-hmm. And then they ended up, starting a group.
Right. So this took place in the 50s, 60s, when, the Motown sound was it. As a matter of fact, this was inspired by that time period and a lot of the, what we now call boy groups of the time. They had a specific sound, they had a specific choreography. And this is what they represented. There was some humor in the film, but it was very music heavy. And one of the things that the critics said was they could have done more with this film by letting the characters tell the story instead of letting the music be so much of the film. I don't know. I thought it worked. What did you think?
I could see where they're saying that in a way. Just because I think it did kind of get overpowered with music. I think, like, if they had, like, maybe a little bit less songs, like, they had the parts where they went and performed.
Right.
But I think, like, I noticed the movie, and I loved that movie, but I forgot how, like, slow it is. And I feel like it's a slow-moving movie because it's, like, I feel like a big chunk of it is, like, them performing. So it's like you're not really getting a lot of, like, parts about, like, them as individuals, their home life, how they met. Like, it's like you're not really getting too much of that. You're getting, like, bits and pieces. So you kind of find yourself, like, looking for more of a storyline instead of the music, per se.
Yeah, because it was, like, things where you kind of got a glimpse into their life, like Church Boy. His father didn't want him to do it because it was secular music and you can't serve God and man at the same time. That whole message. And then was it JT or Eddie whose father told him he wasn't going to be nothing?
It was Eddie's dad that said that.
Eddie's dad told him he wasn't going to be anything. But you get those tiny little glimpses. And then Duck and Leon, they were siblings. So you got a glimpse into, all of them sleeping between two bunk beds.
Yeah, and like there's even the scene with the sister. It's kind of like they're all in that one space, but it's like you don't really get a touch of like Duck and JT's like actual family life.
Right.
You know, I couldn't even tell you, other than the sister that he sang with, it looks like they had multiple siblings. I couldn't tell you like how many siblings they actually had or what their names were or anything.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, little things like that could have been improved upon, but I think at this point it's such an iconic movie that people aren't watching it for story so much.
Yeah.
They enjoy the story that it is, but it's for specific scenes. Like the one scene where, who was that? Cookie? It was Cookie, right? Was that her name?
I think
yeah.
So, yeah.
Played by Casey Lemons, was in the front row and just writhing with lust.
For Eddie.
I read a comment on YouTube that says she was wetter than the Mississippi River. During that part. Oh, that was a good one. But anyway. And speaking of Casey Lemons, she didn't have a huge role. She was like in a few scenes. But she is an actress and director herself. She co-wrote and directed Eve's Bayou, Harriet, Caveman's Valentine. She was a director on The Black Nativity.
She did Candyman. She did the Whitney Houston movie.
Yeah, the Whitney Houston movie that just came out recently. She's done.
Oh, and Silence of the Lambs too.
I don't remember if she had. I think she had an acting role.
No, she directed that.
She was one of the directors.
When I looked on when I did my research on her, or I guess she was a director in that movie.
Okay, I missed it.
So yeah.
But anyhow, the big part of this story is really just their journey from their starting point to when they hit their greatest success. And one of the things that they learned along the way is that the higher you climb, the harder it gets to hold everything together. There was a lot of ego in the group. You know, JT got upset because he wasn't the lead. Eddie was the lead at one point.
Yeah, so Eddie was the lead, and then basically after a while he ended up kind of like wanting to be independent. Yeah.
Well, even before that, he ended up on drugs, and he couldn't keep up with the group, and so he was out. JT was up, and JT was just full of ego. At a certain point, who was it? Oh gosh, what is his name? He was from the other group, and he joined their group after.
Was it Flash?
Yeah, Flash. Flash joined the group, and he started singing and had the women writhing in the front row. And JT got jealous and was like, they're not calling my name anymore. So it's like you see, and again, this is combining a number of groups from that time, you know, the Temptations, the Dells, who were consultants on the film, just all of this stuff that kind of went on in the background. Record deals. They had the one scene where they were about to get their first single release, and they walked into the manager's office, and he was like, I love this. I love the sound. This is great. I just think someone else should sing it. And a group of white guys walks in. And if you know a little bit about black music history, that was common. That was common. As a matter of fact,
they would like steal the music.
They wouldn't even give them the courtesy of an interview. And that's something that we saw in Ma Rainey's when we reviewed that story. It's like they were like, okay, you do the lyrics and record it, and then our people will rehearse it and sing it, and then we can sell that to a mixed audience. But if you sing it as a black person, white people aren't going to buy it. And so you saw some of that. You saw some of the industry stuff. Big Red.
He was the worst.
Suge Knight got his inspiration from him.
Because I was like, oh my God, they're dragging this man.
They hung dude out the window, over the balcony, because he was like, yo, run me my money. And Big Red was like, my office hours are 9 to 5. And when dude pressed it, was like, right now. He was like, all right, so we've got to handle you.
They beat him from the front door to the
balcony.
balcony.
Until he cried mercy. And, you know, his dealings all the way around were shady. He came after the Five Heartbeats manager.
Yeah, because Big Red basically didn't want him managing them anymore. Mm-hmm. He wanted to buy him out, and when he refused, he was pretty much like, oh, no, you're going to do it my way, or it's going to be an issue. And
well, he took great offense because this is what Flash did to him. He brought up, look, you owe me my royalties, and if you don't give them to me, I'm going to tell everybody how you have 2 sets of accounting books and how you're robbing other people. And that's the same thing that Jimmy did. He was like, listen, you're not buying me out of anything because I know that you have 2 separate accounting books. Okay, so don't play me. And he set it up. And what's his name? Not JT, Eddie was in the middle of that because he was like, yo, I want a separate contract. Mm-hmm. And he was ready to buy him out because he wanted to be back in the group and back as the lead. Mm-hmm. So, that didn't go over too well for Jimmy in the end. But then the story that we needed, or the part of the story that we needed, came up in the end. Now, the whole film is told through the memory of Duck. Okay. He was taking a walk down memory lane, and by the end of the movie, it comes back to him meeting up with some of the old members because, you know, of course, the group fell apart. Mm-hmm. The group fell out of style.
And that's what I think that's where you mentioned in the beginning how it was like a lot of music scenes and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's when I was like interested. I was like, okay, we got through all that. I'm ready to ready to see the resolve. I'm ready to see how things panned out for them. Mm-hmm. So I think if they kind of spent a little bit more time, I think there was a lot of details that they probably could have left out. Mm-hmm. I think if they did that and then made maybe halfway through the movie, because I don't think that happened where Duck kind of clicked out of his memory. It didn't happen until about there was 20 minutes left of the movie. So it's kind of
and that's where they tied up
the loose ends and told you kind of how everything panned out and relationships. I would have liked to seen a little bit more of the resolve between JT and Duck, because through the whole movie it's they're always kind of button heads, always fighting over girls, over clothes, over who has the spotlight. They're always kind of having that battle throughout the whole movie. But I kind of would have liked to see how they might have overcome that, and heck, maybe even went back on stage together and did something bigger. Or since Duck is a writer, maybe he could have did something with his writing for the group or something. I don't know. I just think that was my probably only critique about the movie, is I wish that we got to see more of the relationships kind of pan out a little bit.
Yeah. Because even Choir Boy was kind of
he was lost in the sauce to me.
At one point I was like, okay, he's just in the fringes. He's kind of the person in the back doing a vocal interpretive dance or something. Mm-hmm. And then when he came out and he hit the high note, it's like, oh, okay, so he's not just background vocals. He can actually
even
sing.
if you reflect his personality on even his home life, this guy is a church kid growing up that is now singing secular music with a music group. So it's kind of they could have did so much with that, because not only was that reflected in his place in the group, but it was kind of that was reflected on who he was as a person. It's he was kind of always this background person. He was always kind of quiet and whatever, but he actually made a lot of I guess he made some big impacts as well in the group.
Right.
But it's you don't really get a feel for that because he didn't really get that much screen time. Like, I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
like the
that
biggest
part.
screen time he got was at the end when he brought them all together. Like, that was pretty much like
Yeah,
the most screen time he
yeah,
got.
yeah. But even when he was like, "Yo, I can sing the lead," because they couldn't find JT. Um, Eddie was out of the group. Flash wasn't with the group yet at that scene, I don't think.
Yeah, so
So he was like, I could sing Eddie's part. I know all his parts. And they were like, oh, yeah? Oh, all right. And he got out there and he did his thing. But even that was kind of a quick
yeah, that
scene.
was very. And the part that cracked me up about Flash was like at the end when he left the group, where he said he was leaving the group. He said, "Yeah, my new album is coming out. It's hard to be at the top, or it's hard to be at the top alone, or something." And I was just like,
And when you
what?
see who he was singing with, it's like, and listen, the white group here, what were they called? The Flash and something. I can't think of the name of the group now, but I was looking at their wigs and I was like, oh, this is giving me Tyler Perry before Tyler Perry.
You know, and the other thing I do want to say is, I'm not gonna lie, I tend to get this movie mix up, like parts from this movie. I end up melting them together with the Temptations.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, as far as, I am gonna go back and watch the Temptations again, but I feel like the Temptations gave me a little bit more of like a storyline.
Mm-hmm. I think there was more story to go with because it was based on true events.
Like, I got to know children, I got to know wives, I got to know like the dynamics between like other group members and stuff like that. So it was just kind of like, you know, I think that's probably what the Five Heartbeats is missing, but it's still a classic because there's so many iconic songs, especially the part where Duck and his sister sing, like she's helping him basically like write this song. I thought that's probably like the biggest iconic scene that, as soon as you say the Five Heartbeats, everybody just remembers that part.
Song, because she sang her butt off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So overall, of course, this is a 10 out of 5. Just for the purpose that it's classic.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a line that they can recite out of this. Like, oh, you a singing group? Go ahead and sing something. You know, all of those little things. Everyone has their favorite
that
song.
Was very, very... And I didn't really like, as a kid watching the movie, I was kind of like, I didn't take it that seriously because I'm like, oh yeah, just another way, like, you know, we're I guess treated differently. Mm-hmm. But I think with everything that's gone on over the past several years, with like a lot of injustice with police officers and African American people, it was weird. It was like, as I'm watching the movie, it was just like this silence, like, where it's just like, yo, like, they felt in that moment, I just felt the, like, the fear and the stress and the just, like, even him singing, I don't think it was the national anthem. He was in the car after basically they got pulled over and everything. He started singing, was it America the Beautiful? It was something that he was singing about America. But it was like, in that moment, you could tell, like, he was trying to figure out, like, where is our place here, you know?
Right. But even with that, they could have...
That's what's in. They could have like did more with that.
I think they could have layered that a little bit better throughout. But again, it's the movie that it is. It did well when it came out. It was within the Black community anyway. It was an immediate hit. And it continues to be. You know, if this comes on BET, you got your snacks and you're curled up on the couch and you're watching it and you're singing the songs, which, by the way, the soundtrack, they got they got the Dells, they got Babyface and the gang. They just have everybody on this thing. Patti LaBelle. So it was like, for its time.
And I feel like also, you know, it watching this movie and then all the other like music biopics that I've watched, it's kind of like they probably took a lot, like the future movies that came out after that, it's like they took a lot of direction, or they kind of probably used that template. Yeah, like, you know, with a lot of the movies that are out now. So
yeah, and that's the thing. Robert Townsend has been in the business forever. So and Keenan Ivory Wayans, his entire family, have been in the business forever. So this was hard for it not to be a hit. Oh, one of the things that I pointed out, because she didn't know who this dude was, Ernest, played by Harold Nicholas. She didn't know about the Nicholas brothers. If you don't know about the Nicholas brothers, run over to YouTube, check them out, because I found that scene amusing where he's like, show me your moves. And then he watched the guy and it was like, it's crap. And then he came and he did a whole thing. Now, in that scene, I was like, wait, where's the piano coming from? I don't see mm-hmm. But, yeah. So, like I said, Diane Carroll, Harold Nicholas, John Witherspoon, Teresa Randall. There's just a whole slew of big black Hollywood names in mm-hmm. this thing. And in a way, it kind of, in that sense, it reminded me of, what's the movie? Eddie Murphy, Coming to America, where, you know, they had all these big iconic comedians. You know, this is kind of like
Boomerang. Was it?
Not Boomerang.
Was it Boomerang? No, it wasn't Boomerang. I'm thinking of another movie. Richard Pryor in it.
Oh gosh,
it's not Boomerang.
I can't remember, but there's a lot of movies.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to that.
Now
yeah,
we look at it and we go, man, they were really doing something back then, and mm-hmm. quite a few of those people are gone. There's only a handful.
Yeah.
Of, you know, that early era in Black Hollywood that are still around. But anyway, that's all we have for you today. We're going to do one show next week. I know what the movie is, but I'm not going to say it, only because I've been known to change things at the last minute. But we do have another classic lined up for next week. And then after that, it's Mother's Day, so we got stuff to do on Mother's Day, yeah. And then we'll see you after that. So, thanks again for joining us. Don't forget to like, share, follow, tell a friend, tell your neighbors. We discuss Black movies over here. And join us on our Facebook group, Movies That Move We. Join the conversation. Recommend a movie. I'm open to recommendations because I haven't seen everything. I don't know everything. So tell me about a movie that you want to see. Ask if we've done X, Y, or Z yet. I'll gladly repost it. And don't forget to follow us on YouTube. Go to Media That Moves We and hit the Movies That Move We playlist. And you can see everything that we've done. Subscribe and you'll be the first to know when we post something new. So until next week, folks, thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye-bye.